Welcome to Bedhampton Church. Contact us at www.bedhampton.church. But for now, let's continue that journey with this input.
I was saying as I came in this morning, I think this is my regular slot. I think this is definitely the third, if not the fourth time I've spoken on the fifth Sunday in November. Because it's a 5-Sunday month and it's the first Sunday of Advent. And I often feel like this is a big breathe out moment like we've got here, especially in the church. I had a kind of vicar friend who was similar age to me, and she said she often peaked around the 13th of December and then managed to kind of rise again in terms of celebration of Christmas, just like Christmas Eve. So I think for us in the church, we probably have a couple of like really key Christmas moments and that really kind of bring us out of that drudgery of got to get it done. And my family laugh at me because I'm not a fan of Christmas. And I think it's because for me, it gets too much too quickly. And I actually really find Easter very, very special, and there's much more opportunities to really kind of quietly reflect. And I guess this is my challenge to us all, first Sunday of Advent, not actually in December yet. Take the time, because if you don't, it will pass you by without you actually realising it. It's Christmas morning and all those wonderful little points have been missed. And I wanted to talk this morning about joyful waiting. So today being the first Sunday of Advent, it marks the start of the Christian calendar, and Joe mentioned that this morning. Today is literally day one. We're January 1st, but not. This is the start of our Christian year, and we really go in high. It's a real special time and this lead up to Christmas. And actually, we've got Christingle this afternoon, which is so exciting, really exciting. World famous, largest Christingle, not actually, not copyrighted, but no, the children are excited, and actually Advent is a time to prepare and wait, and to prepare and wait for Christmas. But actually, what does waiting look like when we know that the baby Jesus has already been born? We're reminded this Sunday that this is the Sunday of hope. And that we can wait and prepare for more than just Christmas. We can also wait, and this is the passage that was in Matthew and kind of also in Isaiah, that we can wait for the Lord returning to Zion, and we can wait for the ends of the age, where all will be made right with the world, where there will be no war, there will be no nations, where the lame and the weak will be strong. And isn't that something to really look forward to? I'm going to go back a bit in terms of my own kind of history. So my undergraduate degree was American Studies. Largely did that so I could live in America, and my parents paid for it, so that was quite clever on me. And I became increasingly interested in kind of America's global political stance at the time. So lots of kind of neoconservatives, and I was really kind of passionate about what it meant to be an active Christian in America, and actually that kind of preemptive stance to use power to bring about a future that you feel is already ordained. So we're going to get quite complicated quite quickly, but I'm here for you, and I think you're invested. And it's all around my study, and my final thesis was all around eschatology, which is the kind of the study of the end of times and the last days. So I feel personally quite confident in this, and I'm going to take you through it as well. So I began university in 2001, just after the kind of terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. That was kind of 9/11, so the kind of 9th of September, or the 11th of September, pardon me. And I spent a year living in America between 2003 and 2004, and I graduated in 2005. And during that whole time, George W. Bush was president. And you'll remember kind of the kind of thinking of the time. And he was a Republican. He was son of kind of George Bush Senior, and he was very public in his faith. He was publicly a born-again Christian. And his faith, he talked to her a lot about how his decisions were made through the faithful people that he had around him. And this caused a lot of kind of mockery around Europe. But actually in America, there's a very popular subculture that discusses the end of times and how that might come about. And my undergraduate thesis has argued that some US political leaders were using the kind of military might of their country to orchestrate and facilitate what the prophecies in the Bible had foretold. And there was a lot of unrest about that. And actually that unrest, I think, was quite true, because my time with you this morning is to reassure you that actually, as said in Matthew, only God controls the end of times, and we've got no chance of knowing when that might be. However, there is something we can do. We can wait joyfully for Jesus' second coming. There are some key texts that describe the end of days. We've heard Isaiah and we've heard Matthew, but there's also Daniel, and there's also the Psalms, and there's Micah, and I've kind of read a lot through Micah this week about actually what it looks like when there isn't any nations, and what it looks like when the weak inherit, and how the humble are empowered. And that's really where we are at in terms of we should be joyfully waiting and believing that we are the weak, we are the humble, because we are servants, and how we will be ordained and inherit that gift and that heirship of Jesus. And kind of going back to my studies, I looked at kind of people's interpretations of these prophecies, how the European Union was seen to be the 10 toes of the statue within Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and how the Iraq War was seen to be the fulfillment of the rapture, and therefore a divinely ordained apocalyptic struggle. And it gets like that in our hearts. It gets a bit panicky when we don't know what's happening amongst the world. You know, fast forward to today, it can seem that actually, you know, we're also in, like, you know, in the kind of current global stance, a very kind of real end of time struggle. You know, you turn onto the news, especially this last year, you know, it's war after war. Imagine, would you really have imagined 5 years ago there would be war in Europe? You know, have we learned nothing over the last 100 years? Like, and I'll mention this later, but I work for the Ministry of Defence, and we speak quite regularly about what this looks like in terms of our kind of UK readiness. Imagine. So it can all seem like we're closer and closer to an apocalypse. And my answer is this: we are. Because Jesus is coming. Look busy. This isn't to panic us. There will be an end of days. I do not doubt this. But it's not one we can predict or orchestrate. We don't know when it's going to be. It'll happen. We've been told that. But we've also been told not to panic, but to trust in God. And coming back to Advent, you know, we're preparing and we're waiting. We're waiting for the birth of Jesus Christ, as foretold by the Old Testament prophets. It's a time of hope, love, peace, and joy. It's a time to reflect on all we know the tiny baby will grow up to do. He will be king. He is Prince of Peace. He is Emmanuel. He is God with us. And I've spoken a few times at church, and I feel my overriding message, not just the 5th Sunday in November, but kind of all my ministry has been around encouraging you all to take joy where you are. And I read a sermon this week on the passages. I promise it wasn't cut and paste, but I kind of plugged it. Do you know what? AI is amazing. I plugged in, like, these are the readings, any sermons, ? And actually one of them spoke about Christian waiting as a kind of special kind of waiting. And it's not a passive waiting, it's an active waiting. That waiting's filled with kind of hope and promise. And that kind of message kind of reminded me of Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And I personally, taking that Christian waiting, wanted to go one further and talk about kind of joyful waiting. Because isn't one of the most amazing things about being Christian is that we're blessed today. We are loved today. We have Jesus' promises in our lives now. Oh, the arrogance to think we can predict when the end of times will be. And what arrogance to think that we can control or influence God in a path that he hasn't already ordained. Predicting the end of times makes me chuckle. And I did throughout my whole degree, especially my thesis, chuckle. You know, how can we be too bold and think that we control anything? And actually, I think maybe, if I'm being honest, that I perhaps can also fall into that trap. And I can race towards choosing something that was never God's plan. And I can think I know the end result without even asking God to intervene. And actually, do I even know what I'm racing towards? You know, like little hamsters on a wheel. So, joyful waiting. What does this look like? What do I need to tell myself about joyful waiting? And Psalm 9 was another kind of Advent text for today, and it talks about giving thanks to our Lord with all our heart, telling of all the Lord's wonderful deeds, being glad, rejoicing in the Lord. It talks of singing praises of his name, of the Lord our Most High. And that to me is joyful waiting. We are blessed today, we have hope now, and we are God's servants on earth, and we are active in our waiting. We serve our God whilst we wait, and we do it joyfully. And what is our great commandment? To love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. And this is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love the neighbour as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Don't panic. There's no need. It's crazy out there. But we've got our great commandment. And that should give us calm and peace and joy. And I mentioned earlier, I work for the Ministry of Defence, which is part of the civil service. There's a saying used often of jam tomorrow. I don't know if anyone's heard that saying. Jam tomorrow. There's various different kind of suggestions of where it comes from. But basically it means of good things to come that are rarely actually realised. But although jam tomorrow may apply at my work, it doesn't apply to our Christian lives. We have jam today. We have good things, we have hope, and we will inherit. We, the humble and the meek, as servants of Christ, will inherit the earth. God is not looking to protect and promote the powerful, but the humble, his servants. So take joy that we are blessed today and will be forever. Jesus is coming. Look busy.
You have been listening to Bedhampton Church. Our prayer is that this helps you journey with Jesus and serve your community by sharing God's love and friendship. Subscribe and join us for more discussion at www.bedhampton.church. All material Creative Commons copyright. Contact us for more details.